Hi, my name's Nyree. This is an adoption support channel, and today we're going to discuss the fors and against of adopting a baby versus an older child. The way that I'm going to look at it, a baby being under 2, say, and an older child being over the age of 2. So let's just talk first of all about the advantages of adopting a baby. For some of you who have not been able to have children, it's very much going to be an opportunity to nurture a younger child, have that closeness of a baby, which you know that you can feel when you're having them close, the smell of a new baby, all those things. You're going to be thinking that you're going to miss out if you have an older child. With a baby, of course, you have an impact on their development and you can nurture them. For most people, when you think of adopting, that's what you think of. You think of a baby, and so therefore to adopt older just doesn't feel right for some families. Babies tend to fit into families easier because from the beginning they're not necessarily very vocal, they're not doing very much, and that baby grows with you and grows with your family over time. I don't know that in the UK there's many options for babies, but I would say obviously in America and other countries there may be other opportunities open to you, and it might be a lot easier for you to have a baby. So it does vary across the world. Most adoptive families want a baby. The against side of having a baby is you might know the history of the birth family and you might actually be able to keep in touch with them if it's an open adoption, but you can't take away what's happened in the womb or in the early stages. So even if you were to have a baby that's a day old, you can take away what has happened in the relationships around pregnancy and what is happening to that baby in the womb, as in what the mother is consuming and how that might affect development. So you may take on a baby that looks perfect and to your mind is perfect, but you won't know what the development will look like later. There's nobody to tell you what the pattern will be as that baby develops, and there's things that might then come out over time. The other thing to say about it is if you've not had children at all, even if you've been around younger children, there's something to say about the fact that baby's exhausting. Might be lovely, but a baby's exhausting. There's up in the night, there's making lots of bottles, there's all the physical aspect of caring for a baby as well, which can be challenging. Now let's look at older children. There's going to be less competitiveness around it. So these are the positives. You are probably going to be able to be offered profiles of children, say 18 months plus, much more readily than a baby. My perception would be, and I might be wrong, that there is going to be less competition the older the child is actually. So therefore you have the opportunity to put yourself forward for a child that feels right for you, and maybe there'll be no other families that are also interested in that child, or fewer families. So it feels less like that you're having to promote yourself so much and present yourself in a certain way to be accepted by the agency or accepted by the birth parents if you're self-promoting. So the other thing about an older child as well, and not always of course, but an older child will have a bit more of a perception about what's happening, especially if they're over the age of 4. And not to start with maybe, but over time you may actually get some feedback back from them positively. So when they start to come forward to you for cuddles and offer you love and offer you some tangible idea that they're beginning to bond with you, then that's a very special moment. And of course that's quite different with a baby. They start bonding with you and gradually building that up over time, but you kind of fall into that, whereas an older child will need to learn to do that. And when they tell you they love you, or they call you mum and dad, or mum and dad for the first time, is an incredible moment, which there's just no price on that. Also with older children, unlike what I just said about a baby, is that you will probably have an idea of where the development is going. Now, possibly not at the age of 2, you may not, but certainly by the age of 4, a lot of developmental things would have happened. And so you should be able to be given an idea of whether the development is going to look normal and whether the child is developing significant behavioural issues. And so I guess what to say about that is you know what you're taking on, you know what you're letting yourself in for, and that can be easier on the mind than having a baby that then develops those things later. Again, adoption is a commitment either way. Either way, you're adopting and you're taking on whatever happens. But for some people, it might help to know what you're taking on and to know where you stand. So the other thing to say is normally by the time the child is older and released for adoption, all the court stuff is finished and there's very little to be done legally. If you go for foster to adopt, that's not the case. Things are still going through court. There still can be a contest of the adoption and there's lots more uncertainty. And so sometimes it's easier for adopters to know that everything legally is finished and there's no more for them to worry about. There's still the situation where the court order has to go through for adoption, but it's not being battled out in court as to whether they can be adopted, and that's a lot easier on the mind. So I hope that gives you a little feeling about what you might consider to go for. And actually, if you've always thought about a baby and never thought about older, maybe you could think about older. Or if what I've just said has put you off an older child and you know you want to go for a baby, then maybe it's cleared your mind on that. If you've enjoyed my video, please take the time to subscribe to my channel. Thank you.